Underway replenishment, UNREP in the naval community's compressed vocabulary, is among the most demanding evolutions in carrier strike group operations. And it is demanding in a way that sits at the intersection of physics, engineering, and the specific institutional humility that the people who perform it develop from the experience of standing on a flight deck, watching a fuel hose sway between two ships moving in coordinated formation at 12 knots, and thinking clearly about what happens if the coordination fails. A carrier strike group that cannot replenish underway cannot sustain operations. UNREP is therefore not optional. It is also, during its execution, the specific period when the carrier's maneuvering freedom is most constrained by physics and by the safety requirements that govern the simultaneous close formation navigation of vessels displacing tens of thousands of tons. The constraints are specific and worth understanding before the story begins. During fuel transfer, the carrier and the replenishment ship maintain a parallel course, separated by approximately 90 to 110 feet of water, connected by fuel hoses under tension. The ships must maintain matching speeds. The standard UNREP speed is 12 knots, a compromise between the minimum required for course stability and the maximum that the hose tension and the seakeeping dynamics of the connected pair can sustain safely. 12 knots. During this period, the carrier does not make large course changes. It does not make large speed changes. It holds its course and speed with the focused attention of a helmsman who understands that the replenishment ship 90 feet away is equally committed to the same course and speed, and that the margin for simultaneous deviation from those parameters is narrow in the physical sense and essentially zero in the practical one. The UNREP window for a full carrier fuel transfer runs to approximately 3 to 4 hours, depending on the fuel state at the start and the pumping rate of the replenishment ship. During those 3 to 4 hours, the carrier is, in operational terms, the most predictable warship in its own strike group. It is on a known course, at a known speed, for a known duration, and anyone who knows these parameters knows where the carrier will be, within a nautical mile or so, at any point during the window. Iranian Kilo class submarines know these parameters. This is not speculation. The Iranian submarine force has been studying U.S. Navy operational patterns in the Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, and the Arabian Sea for as long as U.S. Navy carrier strike groups have been operating in those waters, which is a long time. The Kilo's commanding officer on the Wednesday morning of this story had been on station in the Arabian Sea for 8 days. He had, in those 8 days, been patient, methodical, and operating his submarine in the specific mode that gives the Kilo class its earned reputation. Slow, quiet, battery-powered, deep against the thermal layer, doing very little that would produce an acoustic signature that the IUSS architecture could resolve against the background noise of the Arabian Sea's commercial shipping environment. He had been patient for 8 days. On Wednesday morning, his patience had produced a position. USS Nimitz was scheduling an UNREP before proceeding. The Iranian Kilo class submarine, in this channel's previous coverage, received the acknowledgement that applies to the Kilo class globally. They are genuinely capable platforms operated by an Iranian submarine force that maintains real operational proficiency in the specific geography where they operate. The Kilo's combination of quiet battery operation, crew training, and tactical familiarity with the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman approaches gives it a capability in these specific waters that exceeds what its age and production generation might suggest in a less familiar environment. The humor in this story is not about the Kilo or its crew. It is about the specific intersection of an UNREP schedule, an IUSS hydrophone node positioned approximately 14 nautical miles from the Kilo's intended snorkel position, and the specific quality of data that a Kilo snorkeling directly into a passive acoustic monitoring field produces for the people monitoring that field. At 7:30 on Wednesday, USS Nimitz and the replenishment oiler took up their UNREP formation position. The oiler slightly ahead on the carrier's port beam. Fuel hoses rigged and connections established at 7:48. The flight deck had been cleared of the last aircraft from the morning's early evolution. respotted forward to create the working space that the replenishment team needed on the port side sponson and deck edge where the fuel station rigging occurred. The replenishment crew was the specific combination of engineering department personnel who manage the fuel connections and deck hands who handle the lines and highline equipment. People doing a job that requires physical coordination in close proximity to large hoses under significant pressure, between two ships whose wakes interact in ways that create the kind of motion that the UNREP's procedural manuals address in considerable detail. The strike group's escort formation adjusted to provide screen coverage appropriate to the UNREP configuration. One destroyer ahead, one on the starboard quarter, the SSGN in the screen's southern sector at depth. Standard UNREP escort geometry, refined over decades of operational experience into a configuration that provides the optimal balance between close-in protection and the freedom of movement that escort vessels need to prosecute contacts. The carrier was on a course of 115 degrees, speed 12 knots, heading southeast into the light northeast swell. The Arabian Sea in late November at 7:30 had the specific quality of a sea that has settled into its seasonal rhythm. The northeast monsoon running reliably. The surface smooth by Arabian Sea standards. The sky clear from the horizon at eye level to the high cirrus that this time of year produces in the upper atmosphere. A pleasant morning to be at sea, if you were not also managing the specific attention that UNREP operations require. At 8:14, the IUSS alert arrived. The watch in USS Nimitz's Combat Information Center at 0814 was the watch that UNREP operations produce. Elevated attention on the replenishment evolution status. The surface picture showing the standard Arabian Sea traffic plus the replenishment oiler 90 feet to port. The acoustic picture managed by the SSGN in the screen, and the standard IUSS monitoring. The tactical action officer had checked the UNREP progress at 8:10. On schedule, approximately 2 hours 40 minutes remaining. And had returned his attention to the routine surface picture update when the alert arrived. The alert was specific in a way that low-confidence IUSS alerts often are not. The processing center had a snorkel contact, a Kilo-class diesel-electric submarine drawing air through its snorkel mast while recharging its batteries. A snorkeling Kilo produces a distinctive noise signature. The diesel engines running while the boat draws air through the snorkel tube creates a specific acoustic profile that the IUSS architecture in this part of the Arabian Sea is designed to detect. The confidence was medium. Bearing, approximately 195 from USS Nimitz's current position. Range estimate, 32 to 48 nautical miles. The Kilo was to the south-southwest. USS Nimitz was heading southeast. The UNREP had been running for 26 minutes. The tactical action officer received the alert at 8:14:22. He looked at the bearing. He looked at the carrier's current course, 115 southeast. He noted that the bearing of 202 was approximately 60 degrees off the carrier's bow. Not astern, but on a bearing that the carrier's southeast course was approaching as the UNREP continued. He noted the range estimate. He noted the escort geometry and which assets were positioned to respond to a southern contact. He notified the commanding officer at 8:14:44. This is the vulnerability, stated without softening. USS Nimitz at 8:14 was 3 to 4 hours into an UNREP that would not complete for another 2 hours and 40 minutes. It was on a fixed course at 12 knots. It could not make the aggressive course changes that a submarine prosecution would ideally allow. The SSGN in the screen's southern sector was the nearest qualified asset, but its position had been optimized for the UNREP screen geometry. Rather than for a contact on the specific bearing, the IUSS had flagged. Repositioning it toward the contact bearing would reduce coverage in another sector simultaneously. The P-8A had been tasked to the northern sector that morning, based on a threat assessment that had not included a southern submarine contact. It was 41 minutes from repositioning to the contact bearing at transit speed. 41 minutes. At the Kilo's assessed battery recharge rate during snorkel operations, a snorkeling Kilo runs its diesels for 60 to 90 minutes. The Kilo might complete its snorkel cycle and dive before the P-8A arrived. The commanding officer noted this arithmetic with the focused efficiency of someone who has done these calculations before and who knows that the correct response is not to be alarmed by the numbers, but to work the problem with available assets. He did three things at AFIV-9. He diverted the P-8A. He directed the SSGN to begin an advisory repositioning that moved it incrementally toward the contact bearing without fully vacating its screen position. And he updated the replenishment ship's commanding officer on the contact situation. The replenishment ship's commanding officer acknowledged and noted that the fuel transfer was proceeding at maximum pump rate. Maximum pump rate. The fastest possible completion of the UNREP. The carrier's commanding officer appreciated this response precisely and noted it. At 8:29, 15 minutes after the initial alert, the contact firmed. The IUSS updated from medium to high confidence, revised the range estimate to 38 to 44 nautical miles, and noted that the Kilo's snorkel position appeared to have remained stationary for the preceding 15 minutes. A Kilo committed to recharging its batteries holds depth and course during the recharge cycle. The IUSS had the contact in a stationary snorkel position at approximately 40 nautical miles, bearing 202. The carrier was closing that bearing at 12 knots on its UNREP course. 40 nautical miles at 12 knots is approximately 3.5 hours. The UNREP would complete before the carrier reached the Kilo's current position. The commanding officer's log entry at 8:30 contained the specific phrase, "Contact not on direct approach vector. UNREP completion prior to CPA. Continue transfer at maximum rate." This sentence, in the compressed notation of a carrier commanding officer's watch log, says, "The submarine is not an immediate problem for the next 90 minutes. Complete the UNREP. Address the contact properly once the carrier has its maneuvering freedom back. Professional management of competing priorities under genuine tactical uncertainty." The log does not record whether the commanding officer's coffee was fresh. The log records what it records. The P-8A reached the contact bearing at 0903, 37 minutes from diversion. 4 minutes faster than the 41-minute estimate, because the crew had gone to maximum airspeed the moment the diversion order arrived and had not followed the fuel, conserving transit profile that the standard estimate assumes. Buoy 2 produced the contact at 090941. Clean contact, high signal quality. Because the Kilo was still snorkeling. Diesel engines running, air mast extended. The full acoustic signature that the IUSS had been tracking now arriving at Buoy 2 at the reduced range of approximately 31 nautical miles. The acoustic sensor operator had the classification in 43 seconds. Kilo class, high confidence. She reported at 9:10:24. At 9:11 and 3 seconds, the Kilo submerged. The diesel signature ceased. 43 seconds of buoy contact on a snorkeling Kilo, then silence as it went deep on battery power. The P-8A continued its prosecution through the dive, maintaining intermittent contact across 3 buoy updates as the Kilo moved at 4 to 6 knots on a course of approximately 305 degrees northwest, opening the range from USS Nimitz. Away from the carrier, the Kilo had recharged, observed, and was now withdrawing with the patient deliberateness that characterizes Kilo operations at their best. Slow enough to maintain acoustic discretion, steady enough to cover meaningful distance, deep enough against the thermal layer to complicate the P-8A's buoy geometry. The commanding officer did not know the P-8A was above him. He knew that a P-8A might be above him. The diversion from the northern sector had taken 41 minutes, and a capable commanding officer anticipates that a P-8A will eventually appear when a carrier group has a submarine contact, and he was managing his withdrawal accordingly. Managing correctly and not knowing the exact picture are both true at the same time in submarine operations, and both were true here. Contact was lost definitively at 9:43. Now, the intelligence picture and the intelligence picture in this story begins not at 9:09 when the buoy made contact, but at the moment the IUSS first resolved the snorkel signal, because the primary intelligence value of this encounter was produced during the 44 minutes of snorkel operation, not during the 43 seconds of buoy contact. The Kilo had been snorkeling in the IUSS coverage zone for approximately 44 minutes before the P-8A arrived. During those 44 minutes, the IUSS had been characterizing its diesel engine acoustic signature continuously. The characterization of a snorkeling kilo from a fixed hydrophone is fundamentally more complete than a battery-powered kilo from a sonobuoy, because the snorkel operation produces a much louder and more structured acoustic profile. The diesel engine firing sequence, the intake, air turbulence through the snorkel tube, the exhaust gas signature, and the propulsor noise as the shaft turns at low speed during battery charging. 44 minutes of this profile from a stationary position produced what the Acoustic Intelligence Cell at Pearl Harbor described as a complete kilo snorkel acoustic characterization at operational distance. The diesel maintenance state characterization is what the intelligence staff highlighted above all else. A kilo's diesel engines in good maintenance condition produce a specific exhaust spectral signature. Engines with deferred maintenance produce a measurably different signature in the exhaust frequency components, a known diagnostic in acoustic intelligence analysis. The Iranian Kilo fleet's maintenance state had been assessed from supply chain analysis and technical intelligence for years. Direct acoustic observation of operating engines had not been available. The 44-minute snorkel had provided that observation. The spectral analysis indicated the diesel plant was operating below its nominal maintenance standard. Not dramatically, not in a way suggesting imminent failure, but measurably. Supply chain analysis had estimated this. The IUSS had now confirmed it. Confirmed beats estimated. The finding updated the fleet's ASWY prosecution model for this hull's acoustic signature under operational conditions, because a diesel running below nominal maintenance standard produces specific frequency variations that a correctly maintained engine does not. And knowing those variations allows the IUSS and P-8A operators to recognize this hull's acoustic fingerprint more reliably in future encounters. The snorkel position itself, approximately 40 nautical miles south-southwest during the carrier's UNREP, stationary for at least 44 minutes, confirmed what the strike group's intelligence officer had assessed. The Kilo's commanding officer understood the carrier group's UNREP scheduling pattern and had timed his snorkel cycle to the fixed course window. The assessment had been probable deliberate timing before Wednesday. After Wednesday, it was confirmed deliberate timing, supported by the geometry of a stationary snorkel position at tactically optimal surveillance range during a confirmed UNREP evolution. This finding went into the operational planning note that would affect how future UNREP schedules were constructed in the Arabian Sea sector. Specifically, whether the sector's transit routing and timing would vary enough to complicate the kind of patient positioning that 8 days of diesel-electric patrol had achieved. The money picture on this encounter reflects the specific economics of diesel-electric patience. The Iranian Kilo's 8-day Arabian Sea deployment, transit fuel, crew pay, base overhead, approximately $420,000 for the deployment period. Mission achieved. UNREP documented, carrier course and speed confirmed, snorkel cycle completed, withdrawal executed cleanly. USS Nimitz's additional operational cost, P-8A diversion and prosecution at $34,000. SSGN advisory repositioning overhead at $18,000. Intelligence processing for the snorkel acoustic characterization at $140,000 over 72 hours. Total, approximately $192,000. The intelligence package value, complete snorkel acoustic characterization, diesel maintenance state confirmation, deliberate UNREP timing. Confirmed, individual hull acoustic fingerprint from maintenance spectral signature, assessed at approximately $4.3 million in collection cost equivalents. The Kilo had spent 44 minutes snorkeling in optimal IUSS collection geometry. It had provided the first direct acoustic confirmation of Iranian Kilo fleet maintenance state, an individual hull fingerprint from the spectral signature, and confirmation of a tactical intelligence picture that the fleet ASW planning community had been building from indirect evidence for 2 years. The commanding officer did not know any of this. His professional execution had been excellent. His snorkel position selection had been tactically sound by every criterion available to him. None of those criteria had included, is there an IUSS node 14 nautical miles north of this position? The IUSS does not publish its positions. The acoustic collection does not announce itself. The Iranian Navy's treatment of the deployment, consistent with its standard operational communications posture for submarine deployments, produced nothing public. Iranian submarine operations in the Arabian Sea are not acknowledged or described by Iranian official media. The operational security posture that produces this silence is both professionally appropriate and, in the specific context of Wednesday's encounter, somewhat ironic. The deployment that was not publicly acknowledged had been acoustically characterized in considerable detail by the architecture that was monitoring the same waters the submarine had been operating in. The silence is real. The characterization file is also real. Both exist in the same world, which is the world where most of the important things are happening quietly, and neither silence nor characterization announces itself. The UNREP completed at 10:44. The fuel hoses were disconnected at 10:47. The replenishment ship separated to safe distance at 10:53. USS Nimitz increased to 20 knots at 10:54 and altered course southwest, away from the Kilo's last known position and toward the afternoon's flight schedule. The replenishment ship's commanding officer noted the separation in his log and noted in a separate entry that the maximum pump rate maintained throughout the UNREP, despite the submarine contact advisories, had shaved approximately 18 minutes from the estimated transfer window. 18 minutes. The margin between the UNREP completing before the tactical situation required a different decision, and the UNREP still being in progress when that point arrived. He did not describe this in the log as significant. He described it as normal operations. In the vocabulary of people who do difficult work well under pressure, that is what significant looks like from the inside. The acoustic intelligence cell at Pearl Harbor received the snorkel characterization package transmission at 11:30 and began analysis immediately. The duty analyst who opened the diesel maintenance state section read it twice. She called the section chief. The section chief read it. He used a word the duty analyst appreciated and then picked up the phone to call the distribution list. The file was updated. The fingerprint was filed. The Kilo was running northwest on battery power in the deep water of the Arabian Sea. Its mission complete. Its snorkel closed. Its crew standing their watches in the specific satisfaction of people who have done exactly what they set out to do. Both things were true. Bye for now.